G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Alright, today I am finally returning to my leg vise. I'm building the stand for it. It's just a nice, simple, cheap stand. This is an old piece of treated pine sleeper that I've had sitting around for years and years. And I'm just going to start by chopping it in half. Okay, next step is to mark the center of each one and then the width of the sleeper. So I want to go half the width of the sleeper to either side of center because I'm going to cut what's called a housing joint out of each side of the sleeper. So on the top, on the bottom, just to make it so they sit together and they're going to tie together nice and tight. So marking up the second one. Okay, great part about my saw is I can adjust the depth of the cut. There's a little flip over arm and a screw. So I can adjust the depth of the cut, so it's cutting halfway through the sleeper. Makes it nice and easy. So just get that set up. Once I'm happy with it, just move it onto the cut lines and then lots of cutting so I can take the timber out. And we will speed this bit up a bit. Okay, the closer together your cuts are, the less material you've got to clean out afterwards. So I'm running the cuts nice and close together. I've got to cut 8 inches out, so there's a fair bit of length to it, so lots of cuts. Spin it round, get it from the other side, and that way you know that the saw's cut down to the same depth on both sides. Okay, next up we've got to remove the material through that cut section. Easiest way to start it off is just with a hammer. Just hit it sideways and break each cut off. So just bang it around and knock out the pieces. This first piece was pretty knotty, so there was a chunk of work to do with it. Okay, switching over to the chisel now. Again, on this knotty piece, it was a fair bit of work, but yeah, just taking it down to those saw cut lines and giving it a nice clean finish. So just chiseling it all the way as we go, cleaning it out. And there's our finished piece, all nice and clean, so I'll put that out of the way and go through the same process with the second one, just working on the opposite side of it. Okay, once we've got both of them complete, we just want to put them together and then just hammer down just to drive the joint together. I'm not worried about any hammer marks. If I was doing this in a finished piece of timber, I'd put a protective piece over it, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a work tool, so I'm not stressed about it. And sticking with my normal reduce, reuse, recycle, we've got a recycled piece of round treated pine post. Picked that up, was going out in the trash, and that will do me for the upright. So where it was in the ground, it's got a bit of rot on it, so I'm just going to cut that off first. Roll it over because the saw doesn't quite cut deep enough. Measure to the length we require. Have a second check of the measurement, make sure it's right. Always measure twice, cut once. And just going back and making sure that that measurement I've got is right back against the vise before I start cutting. And again, checking it. Now I know I'm happy with it. Time to cut it off. And again, rolling over because the saw won't get through far enough. Okay, and there's our upright piece. Okay, switching over to inside the garage because it's getting dark outside. Just going to pre-drill a couple of holes and put some nice big long 6-inch bolts in them, or screws, and 2 in, that way it's fixed in place, and then I'm going to put another 2 in. I want to make sure that it's not going to break off the base when I'm whacking on it with a hammer. The whole idea of this vise is that I can put a piece of hot metal in it and drive down. That's what the leg's for. So I want to make sure it's going to stand up to plenty of force. Okay, then we're just going to drill those extra couple of holes and put another couple long screws in there. Once it's all screwed up, we want to see how it sits. So just going to flip it over and give it a rock test and see if it's going to rock. The timber was pretty bowed, so as you can see there's a fair bit of rock there, so we need to straighten that out. And we're just going to do that with the electric planer. Just take a few cuts off it, flip it over, test it, then take a few more cuts. Just adjust it as we go, trying to get it back to this point where it's sitting steady. This is one of the side effects of using some old timber. It doesn't go right straight away, but the timber's already done its bending, so it shouldn't bend anymore after this. So as I said, I'll just keep buzzing away at it just to get it to the point where I'm happy with it. Then we're just going to put the vise against, sit it roughly in the place that it's going to want to sit when we're finished. Just hold it in place and use a marker. Just mark where the bottom of the leg sits. Then using a spade bit which matches the size of the leg, just going to drill that hole out. And I'm not going to go all the way through the timber. The leg's actually long enough that it'll go through, all the way through the timber, but if I do that, it's going to be hitting on concrete whenever I use it. I'd rather it's hitting on the bottom of the timber. And it's just going to give it that little bit of cushion. Normally you install them so they're sitting into the ground. And then it's time to put our vise into place. Just give it a wiggle, let it drop down in the hole.
All right, folks, there we are. We are roughly mounted for the moment, and I do mean roughly mounted. We've still got a tightness here, which when we put the spring in, it's gonna bring that forward. So I've only got some nails tacked in here at the moment, just to roughly hold everything in place. Once I've got the spring in there, I can set all the distances properly and screw this down. So at the moment, it's just a temporary mount because I've still got to make the spring. So that will be our next video in this series, is making up the spring for it. Then we can get to the finishing stages. I've got to make up a new pin, and all the other little bits and pieces that I need to do, wire brush it all off and give it a paint job. So stay tuned, and the next one is making up a spring. All right, thank you very much everyone for watching, and bye for now.